Welcome to Sunshine Cathedral's Queer God Squad. It's Monday, January 20th. I am Bishop Darrell Watkins, the Senior Minister of the Sunshine Cathedral, and with me are Sunshine Cathedral's ministers, Bishop Robert Griffin, Reverend Dr. Ann Atwell, and Reverend Kevin Tisdall. Visit sunshinecathedral.org to learn more about our progressive faith community and how you can be a part of it no matter where you live in the world. And if you live in South Florida, be sure to check out Sunshine Cathedral Center for the Performing Arts, offering entertainment for the LGBTQ+ community to benefit the LGBTQ+ community. If you enjoy the Queer God Squad, please share episodes with your friends, family, and social media communities. We appreciate your viewing and sharing in all the ways you support us. To learn more about the Sunshine Cathedral, to make donations, or to buy tickets for shows featured at the Sunshine Cathedral Center for the Performing Arts, please visit sunshinecathedral.org. You can also follow us on social media. At Sunshine Cathedral, we are here to tell you that you are God's miracle, not God's mistake. Queer God Squad was created by Hotspots Happening Out in their support of their mission to explore the value of faith in LGBTQ community. In 2025, we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of Hotspots Magazine, the 25th anniversary of Queer News Tonight, and we produced the 25th anniversary of the Stonewall Pride Parade and Festival on June 14th. Hotspots Happening Out is the largest nonprofit LGBTQ media organization in America, and we encourage you to support our mission to inform, entertain, and educate our community and allies.
This is the Sunshine Cathedral perspective. Are LGBTQ God's tithe to the world? In the book of Genesis, Abram gives a tenth of the spoils of war to the priestly king Melchizedek. In Leviticus we read, and I'm quoting, "A tithe of everything from the land, whether grain from the soil or fruit from the trees, belongs to the Lord. It is holy to the Lord." End quote. Proverbs chapter 3 verse 9 tells the community it was to give the first fruits of the harvest to God via the place of worship, and the prophet Malachi exhorts his readers to bring the whole tithe into the storehouse. Did you ever consider that same-gender loving people could be God's tithe to the world? Tithe means tenth. We've known for decades that about 10% of people have had at least one homosexual experience. About 6 to 7% identify as gay or lesbian, and about 25% identify as something other than heterosexual or cisgendered. But in that mix, there is the 10% figure. Is God giving the world 10% of humanity as a special gift? And whether we are looking at the 6% who claim a same-sex attraction orientation, or the 25% who are somewhere under the queer umbrella, we are still talking about the possibility of a significant percentage of humanity being a special gift to humanity. Life seems to have set apart a percentage of humanity to be special, unique, creative, and a blessing to many. If you are LGBTQ, you might, for real, be God's gift to the world. That is such a unique perspective. I really, really love that. And when I was reading this story and kind of preparing for this, I began thinking about the word tithe. And we recognize that as 10%, but there's two words that kind of jumped out at me, and that is intentionality. Being very intentional about doing something very specific. We are going to do this. Intentionality. And the other word that jumped out was sacred. Goodness, wholeness, kindness, holy. Being intentional. Is it possible that the divine was very intentional about creating this very specific group of people that are good, kind, holy, sacred? I just thought that was such an interesting perspective.
Tithe is about giving, and and there's always these silly arguments. Well, is it 10% on the gross, or 10% on the net, or 10% after you've paid all your bills, or 10%, is it always 10%? Can it be 9.5? I mean, all of this silliness. It was like you're completely missing the point. Tithing is about generously, lovingly giving. You're giving as much as you can, which may be 4%, might be 20%. You're giving as generously and as consistently as loving you can. That's the point of tithing. That's a spiritual discipline, and it also is the nuts and bolts of how things work. This tithe to Melchizedek, these gifts to the Magi bring, these gifts of grain, tithe of grain, tithe on the first fruits. All of this seems like commerce because it is. It's sort of a tax that if you want your temple, if you want priests in the temple, you want the temple in good repair, you've got to support it. And so when you do your pilgrimage to the temple, you buy things while you're there. You give things. You give your animal, and they sacrifice the animal to the Lord. Strangely enough, though, the Lord doesn't show up with knife and fork to eat it. So what happens when you burn an animal? What is that called? It's called barbecue. And who gets that? The priests. So now they've got a place to live, but they also have food to eat, and now they can live there and do all the things you want them to do. And so this is the way of supporting. And so and churches still do that. If you please give, and then we'll try to give you what you want from us, and it is sort of an exchange. We can't do without you. And but it's not about, oh, you gave 7% instead of 10, get out. No, it's, did you give consistently? Did you give lovingly? Are you showing support and love for what we are as a community together? So that's what it is. And that our community could really be a divine way of saying, I appreciate what's going on in the world. And so I want to make sure that you have pole dancers and barbers and nail sculptors and florists and professors and philosophers and politicians and lawyers, and all these great creativity and I want you, just some of the best aunties and uncles in the world, and some of the most fun and Auntie Mame-ish kind of parents in the world, and just all these beautiful things that the queer community is. I love the planet so much. I want them to have this. I want them to have. I love it. I support it. Here's one of my gifts to make sure all this joy and fun keeps going. So it's a wonderful way of honestly thinking of yourself as a gift to the world, without being silly, without being too full of yourself, whatever. Of course, we all have to work on ourselves and try to become better versions of ourselves. But who we innately are is a good thing.
Yes.
Whether you're gay or straight or bi or pan or whatever it is, and so that your uniqueness is part of sacred diversity, part of the holy rainbow. And so this idea of I do tithe, I do give to what I believe in, and I myself may be a gift to what God believes in. And I love the way of looking at that.
Yeah.
I just went to a t-shirt that says I am 10%. A t-shirt that says I am a tithe. A t-shirt that says I am God's gift, 10%. I mean, just like, I'm just talking about marketing yourself.
That's a fundraiser, Rob. That's a fundraiser, Rob.
And I will give a tenth of that back to the church. Whatever I make off the church, I give a tenth. But I grew up on the principle, just my parents told me it's about giving. It doesn't matter how much you have. It's about the attitude of just being able to give something back. And I just always remember the time that she would always give me a dime. And she's like, that was a little principle. Yeah, here's a dime to put in. It's a tenth of blah blah blah. And she would tell a whole story behind that. And so giving has always been a part of our familiar family tradition. And then it got to the point, it doesn't matter how much you give, but the fact that you do give.
Right.
It's the gratitude, it's appreciation, it's giving to support the thing that you believe in most. It also gives back to people. So, but look out for my t-shirts.
All right, I love it.
Wow, I like that. This story is so clearly in the Sunshine Cathedral wheelhouse. Our message to the world is that each of us has sacred value. How God created us is the way we're supposed to be. We are God's gift, not God's mistake. And to be able to share that information with as many people as possible just makes me feel good. And I remember the arguments that I grew up with what does 10% mean? Am I supposed to not feed my family and give 10% to the church? And thank goodness our pastor always said, no, your family will always come first. What we ask is that you be consistent in your giving, that you be cheerful in your giving. You can't be a cheerful giver if you're giving your child or your husband or your wife's meal away. So This message is the Sunshine Cathedral message, and it is as clear as possible. You are God's miracle, not God's mistake.
Schuler, Robert Schuler, when he would teach about tithing, now he was teaching to an affluent Southern California community, whatever, but he would say he taught 20% tithing, 10% to the church and 10% to yourself. He said, you deserve a nest egg, and here's how you can have it. 10% of the church, 10% yourself. And if you can't live on the 80%, you're overextended. Wheel in your spending. Now, that is probably true for his audience, but it might not be true for everyone. But even you did that as 15%, 8 and 7, or 12%, 10 and 2, or whatever. That to think, yeah, I am giving to a church, but I'm also thinking of me, whether this is my travel fund or my retirement fund or whatever. So I like that idea too. That include yourself in the tithe.
Yeah.
Tithe the thing you believe in, and you should also be something you believe in.
Absolutely.
So give some to the church, give some to you, and I think you can spread it around even beyond that. I mean, if you like NPR, if you like, spread it around.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, it's a way of showing love, and the thing about love is the more you give, the more you seem to have to give, and so just spread that love around. This giving situation reminds me of Pentecost, because Pentecost. We think of the fires, the tongues of fires in the upper room, and the wind blowing, and the tongues of fire. But it was already a holy day. It was already in the Jewish calendar the Feast of Weeks. It was already a harvest festival for the first fruits, the first grains, the first harvest. And so I think of Pentecost as being a particularly queer holy day because it is the day of fruits and flames. It is the day of the first fruits and the flaming tongues. So yeah, fruits and flames. So it's about giving, but Pentecost is about giving, but it's about our giving or giving us fruits and flames. So think about tithing all the time, but give it a big think at Pentecost. It'll be coming up in the spring.
All right.
Well, that's today with the Queer God Squad.
Before we go, we want to invite you to join Sunshine Cathedral in a wonderful travel experience and help our mission for our community. Join us on the Florida Ace Walk Pride Cruise. This unique 3-day cruise will sail from Miami on the $1 billion and ultra deluxe 170,000-ton MSC Seascape on November the 2nd, 2025.
The cruise is an incredible value starting at just $199. Parties, special events, and more aboard, including a special unlimited beverage and open bar with Wi-Fi for all 3 days for just $68. We invite you to join us on this amazing cruise for fun, this vital cruise for good.
We want to thank you for joining us. We are here daily at 3 p.m. to have some fun and to discuss what our LGBTQ community is talking about. Sunshine Cathedral is the world's leading progressive queer church. Progressive, queer, and God are words that naturally should go together.
We are all in this together. Remember that.
You are God's miracle, not God's mistake.
Until next time, we are the Queer God Squad. Goodbye.